Happy Monday, happy Monday Miracle Mastermind. Welcome everybody. We're continuing with the month of expanding into self-love. And today we're going to focus on the paradox of when we can experience greater love for ourselves and for others is when we are able to create healthy boundaries. So the topic is boundaries. And I want to get any of you who experience that in order for you to receive more love, you feel like you need to let go of the boundaries. I've heard many people feel that you need to just give and give in order to receive love. Yeah, I see that. And it comes from childhood when we didn't learn healthy boundaries. And when there were no feeling of safety created in our early years. And when we learned to equate receiving love with this notion of giving without an end. So really, I want to start our call today with an understanding of the purpose of boundaries and what is it really for. So the boundaries define the limits of safety for us and our comfort. They also help us create trust that allows our relationships with others and with ourselves to flourish. It also fosters mutual respect. When we know the boundaries, and by boundaries I mean is our rules of what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable, and what we allow ourselves to, what we are comfortable saying yes to and what we're comfortable saying no to. And when we are very clear, starting with ourselves, what our boundaries are, and then when we are bold enough and courageous enough to express to others what our boundaries are, that's when we allow our connections to grow with others, and deeper trust and deeper respect between people grows. And we contribute to relationships with healthy boundaries in this balance of interdependence and independence. So that's that sweet spot when we are rooted in ourselves, when we're grounded in our own inner connection to source, higher self, inner knowing, and when we are in the co-creative relationship with others. So that is really that paradox of love. And having greater self-love requires us to strengthen our ability to have greater boundaries. And working with hundreds of healers, I know that this is one of the weakest links for many of us, is being able to create healthy boundaries. And setting boundaries is a form of self-care. You can write that down. When you create healthy boundaries, you are growing your ability to care for your true self. And also promotes overall mental, emotional health, and our overall well-being. And when we have healthy boundaries, it also fosters our ability to trust ourselves. Deeper trust in our gifts, trust in our voices, trust in our intuition, trust in what's right. So the boundaries are incredibly important. And I want to say there's a quote that I love from Brene. Let me pull it up. I just love, because she's done a lot of research on vulnerability and shame. And one thing that she discovered from this, which was surprising for her, and I'm also surprised, that what creates a greater respect between and greater respect between people and greater connection between people is courage to have greater boundaries. So here's the quote that she says: "Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. We can't base our own worthiness on others' approval. Only when we believe deep down that we are enough, we can say, enough. I'm enough. And we don't base our sense of worth and value on other people's validation or approval. And we're no longer afraid to disappoint others by creating healthy boundaries. So the clearer and more respected the boundaries, the higher the level of empathy and compassion for others. That is the piece that really surprised her, that the clearer that we create our boundaries and the more respect we have for our boundaries, the higher the level of empathy and compassion that we're able to cultivate within ourselves for others. This is really surprising, but just see, like, if that makes sense for you. The clearer your boundaries are, the more respect, empathy, and compassion we can have for others. Because it's a mirror. When we have a greater empathy and compassion for ourselves, that's how when we create healthy boundaries. And when we know that limit, where the boundary is, we grow our capacity to have empathy and compassion for others. And then she continues, fewer clear boundaries, less openness. It's hard to stay open, kind-hearted when you feel people are taking advantage of you or threatening you. So think about it. What does it, I would love to hear all of you who are tuning in. What does that mean for you when you have, and how does that feel? Is it difficult for you to set boundaries? And when you set boundaries, what do you feel? What comes up for you? Is there a feeling of guilt comes up? Is there a fear of being rejected or a fear of somebody disappointing you? Put it into the chat. I'd love to hear. Yeah, Michelle, if you want to unmute yourself, you can unmute yourself. And I want to say that when we set clear, and really at the core of it, when we are afraid of setting boundaries out of fear of being being abandoned, what happens is that we end up abandoning ourselves. I'll say that again one more time so it really lands. When we are afraid of setting boundaries out of fear of being abandoned, what happens is that we're abandoning our own needs and we abandon ourselves. Out of desire not to be abandoned by others, we continually abandon ourselves. And so I want to give you some examples of things for you to consider what your healthy boundaries might look like and what you might practice this week. So that's an opportunity. You can come back and comment how this is going for you. So one can be taking a step back. Just taking a step back is a healthy boundary. You can self-care for yourself by taking a step back. Saying no. When somebody asks you and you deep inside feel that this would be, you would say yes out of obligation or should, or out of desire to fit in, or out of fear of being judged or disapproved, or not wanting to rock the boat. But deep inside, it's a no. It's a practice that you can commit to taking on to yourself to say no. Because every time that we say no, we say a bigger yes. And what are you saying yes to? To you. To what is truly in your heart and what is truly right for you in the moment. And what you might say yes to in one moment might be a no in another moment. So it's really a moment by moment, day by day, self-exploration and awareness of your needs, awareness of your desires, awareness of where you are energetically and what you need in a given moment and day. So this practice of setting boundaries as a self-care requires you deeper listening and taking time to be with yourself, to get quiet, to tune in, to feel how your body feels, where you're noticing different sensations in your body, and how you're feeling overall. What is asked of you in this moment? Are you needing more rest? Are you needing more alone time? Or are you needing more social time? So another way to self-care is asking for what you need. Getting clear first what you need, and then asking for it. That's another way to care for yourself. Putting yourself first at the top of your priorities. Putting your well-being, your joy, your peace, your safety, your sense of well-being, all as well at the very top of your priority. That's self-care. And that requires healthy boundaries. Spending time in nature or alone. Asking for help is another form of self-care and also requires healthy boundaries. Forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself for any beliefs or perceptions that you might have carried that lowered your vibration, that when you betrayed yourself or had a negative self-talk or had thoughts that made you feel like an imposter, which are lies. And setting boundaries. So I would love to hear, what is your way that you are committing to practicing healthy boundaries? Just where you are right now, what is the healthy boundary that you need? Maybe perhaps it's around a certain situation that you're finding yourself in. So I'm gonna take a look in the Facebook group. I see Tammy is here watching or liking. So I'd love to hear any of you who are watching live. Tammy is here watching live. You can comment and see how the... Okay, I see April is here. I struggle with reaching out too often to others that don't reciprocate. Yes, I hear that. You can expand a little bit more, April. So you're struggling with reaching out too often to others that don't reciprocate. And what are your longing for? Just asking yourself, what are you desiring? Regardless of whether the person responds to you or not, what are you really looking for? So it's interesting because when a lot of the things that we learn come, of course, from childhood, from our upbringing. And there's this paradox where longing for connection, so there's a desire for deeper connection. And so I'll leave it for another call, but we have different attachment styles depending on what was happening in our childhood. And attachment is important for a sense of safety and belonging. And also boundaries are very important for a sense of safety and belonging and feeling of that there is a constant presence of love. So we develop different ways of trying to receive love. And one of them is anxious attachment. And in the anxious attachment, there's the sense of clinging and wanting and not being able to fully receive it. And there's the anxious energy. And then another one is avoidant attachment style, where maybe the boundaries were a little too rigid. And we lean to just kind of pushing people away and we try to be like more on the side of trying to be alone, staying alone. And there's also a third type of attachment style, which is confused, where it's the combination of the two, anxious and avoidant. And when we have this two, we can be like, I really need you, I want you, and then no, leave me alone. Kind of like there's both, back and forth. And of course there is a healthy way of attachment, which is secure attachment. And in secure attachment, there's a deep sense of trust. There's a deep sense of belonging. And then we're here at home in our being. We're here at home in the universe. We know that we have a place. There's a sense of relaxation and healthy connection with ourselves and others. And of course, what we didn't receive when we were young, and it's not to blame it, it's not to make it wrong. There's nothing wrong. We all had different traumatic experiences growing up. But it is to recognize that you now are an adult, and it is our job now to reparent ourselves. This is on us, because whatever we didn't receive when we were little, whatever traumatic experiences we had, we try to recreate that in our relationships now as adults, because we keep trying to have a correction to that experience. If there was abandonment, then we're trying working too hard to attach. We have this anxious attachment style. If there were too rigid boundaries, we avoid, we push people away. Or there's the mixed combination. So it is our now job to reparent ourselves and give that inner child that is still there. That's what we do in our year-long program a lot, is connecting with an inner child and doing deep healing for the inner child, creating the correction. We also create this correction through relationship, because whatever relationships between the women in the group, or relationships in your life where it's a safe container, where you create a safety to be vulnerable, to explore your inner landscape, and to have safe people in your life who can offer you that correction, where there's a corrective experiences that are very important for you to rewrite that story, and also create a shift in your nervous system, where your nervous system can relax and feel at peace, that you won't be abandoned, and also you won't be pushed away, and also there won't be this rigidity, but there is fluidity and ease. So there's a beautiful dance with people around you. And that is really our job, to nurture, to tend to on a daily basis to the inner parts of us that feel wounded or abandoned or left alone or neglected in some way, or haven't been played with. So there's a part of you, all of us, who wants to be played with. Being playful is a really big part of reparenting yourself, and being spontaneous, giving yourself time to play, be spontaneous, be creative. So let me check more if there's anybody else commenting. April, I wonder. All of that. I don't have strong boundaries because I'm always available for connection, and others typically aren't. Yes, April. It sounds like, yes. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And also just looking for when there's this energy of wanting to connection, but it's not coming back to you. My invitation for you would be, how can you create a deeper connection with yourself, deeper intimacy with yourself? So that it's not looking outside of you to fulfill that need, And I guarantee that when that happens, when that rebalancing internally happens, then there is a deeper connection happens with others, because like whatever is happening on the inside of you, it's reflected in people around you. So a lot of times when there's abandonment and leaving yourself behind in order to create connection with others, that is mirrored in the relationships outside of you, whatever is happening on the inside. So my invitation would be to grow your inner connection and explore your inner world in a deeper way, and also have places, sisterhoods, or places where it's very safe containers, intentional containers, where intimacy is created, where there's a reciprocal connection, and it's an understanding that this is the container where you can connect in a deeper way. That's what we do in a year-long program a lot, is container where we can connect in a deeper way and express, and also have an understanding that you have each other between our time. You can reach out and have, it's an agreement that we have, that there is connection. Hi Jaya, thank you for being here. For sure, anxious attachment, April. Yes, I hear that. And there are tools. There are tools for balancing your nervous system. When the anxious attachment, there is a strong importance for balancing your nervous system and deepening your connection with yourself. And finding people in your life who understand this and don't continue to re-traumatize, because a lot of times what we do is we continue to re-traumatize and feel abandoned again and again, and continue to cling and want that connection so desperately. But we keep, as long as the internal parts of ourselves are unhealed, we continue to recreate relationships outside of us that reinforce the internal pattern. So our work that we focus on is the inner work, and then having the external support and sisterhood group where we create corrective experiences and heal the parts of you that are longing for a deeper connection, and for also having deeper connection with yourself. So I would love to hear, what is your commitment for this week? What is one thing that you are willing to practice in the way of deepening your self-care and strengthening your boundaries as an act of self-care? What is one or two things that you are going to practice? Remember that this is not perfection. We're not focusing on perfection. We are focusing on practicing. How about you, Michelle? What about you? What are you going to practice in order to strengthen healthier boundaries? When we prioritize ourselves, we prioritize truth. We prioritize what is real. And I say S with a big S, capital S. It's our connection to source. And so often we betray our connection to source, which has the ultimate power. It's the ultimate creator in our life. And we connect with the small egoic self that is wounded, the ego mind that feels I don't have enough, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. So we are trying to get it from all the others, other people around us in order to feel whole, in order to feel worthy and well. And that leads to leaking our energy and dishonoring our boundaries. And in that quest for connection, for validation, for feeling worthy and whole, this becomes a rabbit hole. We keep repeating it, and it's never going to give us that satisfaction and fulfillment of truly connecting to the source, the truth of who we are, and our sense of balance and well-being and groundedness and belonging to this planet, to this earth. And from that place, once we have that, we can have very beautiful relationships and have good boundaries and have connection, and we can really grow and flourish in our relationships. But having your sense of who I am as infinitely source, connected to source, however you call it, love, God, peace, goddess, infinite energy. When we have that, there's nothing to lose. Even if people leave our life and we lose relationships, it's not personal anymore. We know that people come and go, connections come, form, and then dissolve. And there's nothing wrong. We're still whole and complete and infinitely supported. And there's deep sense of trust. We're anchored here. We belong here. So keep practicing boundaries, and is a way of deepening your self-care. Well, with that, I'm going to end the live stream. So wishing you a beautiful, really balanced and harmonious week. And I will be back in this group next week. It will be my birthday on March 20th on the spring equinox. So see you in a week.